What's up, everybody? I'm B-True, and today I'm going to give you the most hidden, secret OP jungle pick that nobody ever talks about. And that champion is Zac. And the question of this video is going to be, have you played Zac before, and what do you think about him? Do you think he is a hidden OP champion? Now, first off, you're probably thinking, Zac, I've never heard of Zac. Well, that's the whole point of this video. See, a lot of people do their top 5s and their top 10s, and they give you like a tier list for champions. And one thing I've noticed is I've never seen Zac on a tier list. Why that is, I'm not sure. Maybe because at higher elos, when people understand the game a little bit better, they're able to kind of work around his weaknesses. But at low elo, Zac is amazing. And I think that he should be top tier, if not the very next like pseudo tier right below that. So let's get into why exactly he is so overpowered, and why he is my current pick for climbing elo. So first off, in patch 6.9, he got a direct buff and an indirect buff. So he actually got 2 buffs in this last patch that actually really helps his win rate a lot. So first off, his passive buff, for those of you who don't know, when Zac dies, he splits into 4 little blobs. Those blobs come back together, and if all 4 of them aren't killed before they reattach, he comes back to life with a portion of his health. So what they did for that passive is, it used to be, it took 8 seconds for the blobs to come back together. Now what happens is, that time, that 8 seconds, actually goes down with your level. So it goes from 8 seconds all the way down to 4 seconds at level 17, right? So the blobs start coming together a lot faster, which makes it a lot more forgiving, and you're able to come back to life sooner, which makes it a lot easier for you to survive when you end up making a mistake or in the middle of a team fight. So that's a big buff right there. And then second off, the indirect buff was the Cinderhulk buff. So what they did for Cinderhulk is they increased the passive burn damage. They decreased the base damage, but they increased the scaling based on your level. Now it scales off your level very, very well, and the burn damage does more damage once you're level 6 than it did than the old one did. So once you hit level 6, you're going to start doing more damage than the old Cinderhulk, and that's going to scale much better than the older one, so that damage is going to increase by a lot once you start getting into the higher levels. So those are the 2 buffs in patch 6.9 that Zac got. But even before these buffs, I think he was very overpowered and very strong, and he's somebody that not a lot of people know about. And because they don't know about him, they're not talking about him, it's a great pick for you to pick in solo queue to help you climb. So as a jungler, Zac has great clears and great sustain at the same time. So he's able to clear very fast, and he's able to sustain very well. So his clears are great because he has his W, which he can spam, which is a little AoE ability that hits enemies around you. Actually, all 3 of his abilities are AoE, so he's able to do a lot of damage, and then add in the additional burn damage from Cinderhulk, and his clears have gotten much better. And then the sustain from his blobs, whenever he hits an enemy with a skill, he drops a blob that if he picks up, gives him a percentage of his max health back. So the skills cost a percentage of his current health, and the blob that he drops gives you back a percentage of your max health. So you're able to actually heal a lot the lower health that you get. Plus, mix in the fact that he's AP, which a lot of junglers are AD, although with this patch, AP junglers have actually come more into favor. But he's an AP champion that can help your team comp that add a little magic damage to the team comp. Now, why he's so good for low elo, especially solo queue, is because he's a very forgiving champion. So first off, he's a tank, which being a tank is much more forgiving than being a squishy, because you can be out of position and not die instantly for it. And then also his passive that allows you to die and then come back together as long as the enemy isn't able to focus you. So in team fights, if the enemy focuses you to kill your blobs, most likely your team is going to be killing them. So they have a choice between letting you come back to life or basically dying to your team because they're focusing on you. So that's a really good thing to have in team fights, especially with the low elo mistakes that players make and they don't know how to focus and all that stuff. And then also his E, which is his slingshot ability, the ability that he's the most known for, that kind of sends him all around the map. That's really good for escaping also. So you have your passive, he's a tank, and you have your E, which is a long distance escape. So he's really, really forgiving of a champion and allows you to make mistakes and not get punished for it, which is really, really huge in low elo when mistakes they happen constantly. So this is a way to take a lot of mistakes out of your game. And then also, especially in low elo solo queue, when this is really a difficult thing to do, Zac is probably the king of initiating fights, right? You can argue possibly Malphite with his ult, but I would say Zac is actually better because he's able to chain. His initiate is actually just a normal skill as opposed to where Malphite's is an ultimate. So Zac can use his E to launch himself into a fight from very far away once it's at max rank, and most of the time you don't even see him. He'll just fly into the picture. Once he lands, he knocks up all the enemies in the area, and then he's able to also use his ultimate, which knocks enemies up and back from where he is. So if you launch yourself behind the back line of the enemy, you can ult to push them up to the front line, and your team can blow them up immediately. Or you could launch yourself into the middle of the enemy team, ult, and then separate the back line from the front line so that you're able to kill the front line and the back line is left in, not being able to hit anybody. So altogether, like he's amazing at initiating fights. And in low elo, that's really big because normally the team that initiates well is the team that wins fights because of how low elo works. I mean, that's just how it is in bronze, silver, gold, and even platinum. And then also he has a ton of CC. So his Q has a slow, which is able to hit a couple enemies at a time. His W doesn't have any CC, but it has % max health damage, which is pretty important. His E is a knockup, which you're able to cast probably like 2 or 3 times during the course of a team fight, depending on how long it goes. So he can continue to just launch himself into people and get this AoE knockup, which is really, really, really beneficial for team fights. And then his ultimate, which is like a big displacement skill that knocks enemies up and away. So he has a ton of CC in his kit along with his awesome initiation tools. And then like I was saying, his W, so it does % max health damage and is extremely spammable. So every time you pick up one of your blobs, which in the middle of a team fight, you probably won't be focusing too much on picking up the blobs, but those blobs will be healing you. And every time you pick up a blob, it reduces the cooldown of your W by 1 second, which the cooldown is already pretty low. So then this is going to allow you to spam the % max health damage against enemies, which is also really, really important. So altogether, we have a champion who is extremely forgiving, the best initiator in the game as far as initiating team fights. Tons of CC. He's got great clears and great sustain in the jungle. He's great out of the jungle. He's got % max health damage. I mean, everything kind of comes together with this champion to be just really, really overpowered. And I don't know why nobody talks about him. I don't know why he's never on a tier list. But he's one of the hidden OP champions that you can pick that the enemy doesn't see very often. And you can completely surprise the enemy with the amount of damage you can do and how tanky you can get, especially with Cinderhawk. And I personally would suggest going full tank on him, just because I think it's better for low elo. It's able to it's much more forgiving, and you're able to kind of just run into the middle of the enemy backline, jump into them, and not worry about dying too quickly. But yeah, so I want to know what you guys think about Zac. Have you played him? What are your thoughts on him? What do you guys do when you play him? Do you think he is a hidden OP that nobody really talks about? Yes, I hope you guys liked this video. I hope you liked the information on it. If you did, please leave a like, and like I said, comment on what I asked before about if you guys have played Zac. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm going to try and do some more short videos like this, a little bit like quicker information to kind of help you guys, so you don't have to watch these long videos, and just try and give you guys some picks and some information here and there as I go along and as I learn them. So Thank you guys for watching. If you've watched to this point, thank you so much. I appreciate every single one of you guys. I hope everybody guys have a good day or night whenever you're watching this, and peace.